three-dimensional work, because otherwise it'll be a little too static. And this is really, again, what has started and what is a common thread. Paper and storytelling seem to be two common threads in my work. Next slide. Carol will remember this guy. This was when I did the month-long studio stay in at the Carving Studio Sculpture Center in January. I was a little bit lost in life and I didn't know where to go, so I ran to Carol. And this was really, Carol was freaked out by this character, by the way. And her being freaked out by it freaked me out. So this was the start of me finding my own creative voice. So up until then, I was really creating things from different other people's stories. And this was the start of me trying to force myself to not think of a story, but to figure out what wants to come out. And this has taken me a lot of courage over the last, I guess the last 15 years to show this kind of work, because a lot of people get freaked out. I get some negative reactions to it. And it's super scary for me. There are some shows I refuse to show in now because of the reaction that people have. And it takes an awful lot of courage for me to continue to trust my creative voice, because I don't get scared by them. I'm totally endeared by them. I think they're actually quite lovely. And I only have a lot of love for my little characters. So I think there is a courageousness that you have to follow your own creative voice. And now I know why a lot of people stay away from it, because it's hard, because it's not always pretty and not everybody likes it, but it's really, really satisfying in the end. So next slide. More of my sort of cute, creepy things. This is all pulp paper. So I like to, again, work with pulp paper. Sometimes I mix a little bit of concrete in it so that it's rock hard. And then painting with acrylic. Next slide. More pulp paper. As you can see, I really like animals, and I really want to capture the essence of the animal. So I'll go to a farm and stare at a cow for half a day. Again, I don't want to use a reference. I want to be able to recreate it on my own, and that's just my own challenge for myself. This is all pulp paper. Next slide. More animals. This is a goat. And this was interesting because you really learn, how does a goat, what's the difference between a goat and a sheep, the face and the ear, like what defines a goat. And I always find that so interesting. Next slide. Mangalit's a pig. So this is a pig in Poland. It's kind of a breed between, crossbreed between a sheep and a pig that they do in Poland. And this was, again, it was, the reason why this is important to me is because I was really trying to make it look real. And I went to a show, I put it in a show, this with a bunch of other animal heads I did, and people were freaked out by my booth, and they thought it was taxidermy. And one guy said, "How much for the dead pig?" Well, I just about burst out crying. I was so upset. I was telling Carolyn, I was like flattered and insulted at the same time. But again, I had to just have the courage, for some reason, this is what I want to create. And so I'm going to honor it. And, people can freak out if they want. It's just for some reason. And it's what I try to teach people in class is don't be afraid of your own creative voice. There's something about it that needs to be expressed, and so do it. Next slide. This is actually a life size. It's enormous, this moose head. Why did I do this? Oh, my brother asked me. He wanted to buy a dead moose and I wouldn't let him. So I said, I'll make you one. So this is why. But it was fun because, again, it's all pulp paper, which is a lot of fun, and the infrastructure is newspaper. But I learned how to make it super strong, because that was one thing that Joan really drilled in my head, is to make things really strong and durable, and I really appreciated that. And then I'm just trying to learn with paint, like how to bring it to life. Next slide. Okay. This was a turning point for me. I took an art doll workshop. I had no idea what an art doll was. I never liked dolls when I was a kid, and but I was intrigued. And so what this is the body is stuffed with cotton, and there's a linen lining. And I bought this whole bowl of porcelain doll legs for some reason, and I've had them for a while. And I just had this thought of making this caterpillar with the porcelain doll legs. And then the head is paper clay. So always paper in some form in my work. And I love paper clay. It's a beautiful material. It's made of paper, but it's works like clay, and it dries super light. It's just so beautiful to work with. Again, working with your hands with that material, it's like butter. It's a dream to work with. And so this is the beginning of mixed media for me, and it continues to this day, working with recycled materials, like the recycled fur. I think that's from a raccoon coat, recycled, and the legs and different things. So this is the start of kind of a new direction. Next slide. Another art doll with the porcelain doll legs. And so another kind of theme in my work is humor. So I was doing this ladybug, actually. It started out as a ladybug, and then when I was doing the head, all I could see was my grandma's face. And so I thought it would be kind of funny calling it a little old ladybug. And so it just kind of developed from there. Next slide. Okay, another studio week at the Carbon Studio and Sculpture Center. Everybody avoided me when I was creating this character, including Carol. I don't think I saw Carol all week. So this is the start of working with assemblages. So I still create these art dolls, but I make a lot of assemblage sculptures that go with it. So this little car that he's driving or riding is a wooden toy, and then it's not finished here, and I just kind of use a lot of old metal and different vintage materials to create it. And the pig is made out of moss and pulp paper and furniture wheels. On its back is a mouse made out of a fishing lure. So just things like that, which now really is my work, is the mixed media, but always working with pulp paper and paper somehow, and telling a story. So next slide. I took a little workshop in California, and they said bring these little dolls. So I brought these little dolls, and made me chop its head off and create a new head out of epoxy clay. And I thought, oh my God, are you allowed to do that? Like, are you allowed? And for some reason, I just opened up my world then again. And so I buy a lot of vintage porcelain dolls now and recreated their heads and make art dolls out of them, which is fun. And it started with these little characters. Next slide. So once I got onto the whole art doll thing, it just sort of exploded. And this is maybe this is 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And it's pretty much exploded since then. I create a lot. I don't know why. I create a lot and play a lot. And so the piggyback ride, the sheep doll is a porcelain doll. And then I recreated its head and its arms and its legs. And then the pig is paper mache pulp paper. And then the parapirate is a puppet. And I made it steamboat chair out of cigar boxes. So just, you know, assemblages and then art dolls seem to be where I like to be, but usually incorporating paper. Next slide. Okay, so I went to this antique store and I saw these old shoe lasts, and all I could see were go-karts and scooters. So I bought a whole bunch, brought them home, and made, this is Professor Bird and his scooter, and I made a scooter out of it. I'm using epoxy clay now too. So my assemblages use epoxy clay just to make everything cohesive. And this is Professor Bird. He has to steer it with his nose, so that's why the steering wheel is up near his face. And this is his morning commute to his school. And next slide. I feel really silly when I say what my stories are, but anyway. Go-Kart Racer. So a lot of these shoe lasts created into go-karts using old wheels and whatnot in my studio. And then always the head is made out of paper clay. Next slide. Again, Go-Kart Racer and Sidekick. I had a dog for a long time, and he showed up in some of my work. And next slide. This is another go-kart pilot. And another theme. When you start to honor your creative voice and really try to tap into it, you'll notice like themes come up. And for me, flight seems to be something that's common. My father was a pilot, and I adored my father, and I flew in airplanes my whole childhood, and I think it just really comes out in my work. I love birds and anything to do with flight. I feel like I put wings on a lot of stuff. Next slide. Okay, so I got into this boat phase. I don't know where that came from because I'm not a boater. I don't like boats. But I just kind of went with it. This was I bought an old baguette bowl. That's the center. And then I just saw a boat. And so the sides are paper and pulp paper and paper clay. And then just things in my studio that I just put together with epoxy clay. Next slide. More stuff. This is so I started this at another studio week at Carbon Studio Sculpture Center. I like to go there. It helps me to jump out of my life and get into our kind of creativity mode and open myself up to new things. So every time I'm there, I always start a new body of work, which is very exciting. I love it. So this was a kind of a cool example because I was trying to force myself to do these pods. In the middle pumpkin structure is pulp paper, and I even drew out a bunch of pods, and I thought, okay, I'm doing pods and organic, and it just wouldn't work. I brought this home and I couldn't finish it, and I think it stayed in my studio for weeks because I could not do a pod. All it wanted to be was a carriage. And so I just gave into it one day. I'm like, okay, fine, it's a carriage. And so then the story just became, this is a forest courier bringing the little baby prince home for its first time to the castle. Next slide. Another pod I tried to do and wouldn't happen. It turned into a little elf canoe. Next slide. So then once I just let go of trying not to do pods, then again, just a bunch of things exploded. This was a big, huge spoon ladle, like enormous. And then I just turned it into a boat for these three little men, these three characters I had. Next slide. Again, once I just let it go and tried not to force something, these really cool things happen. And when I was at the, you see a lot of times those the old sewing machine drawers. And when I saw them, there was 2 of them, and all I could see was a double-decker bus. So I just brought it home and thought, all right, it wants to be a bus. So I don't fight things anymore. I just gotta let them come out what they want to be. And then the wheels are old spools, yarn spools, I guess they call them. And then I created these little characters, again, out of paper and pulp paper, and they're sort of like a Tweedledee and Tweedledum kind of. And then it turned out what the story is it's these 2 old men, they're twins, and they're riding this bus, what do you call it? A game, or those little rides they used to have outside the grocery store in the mall, where you could put 25 cents in and ride. So this is what they're doing. This is what this is. Next slide. I like to do little mini art dolls when I teach, and I always like to finish them, and so normally I just work with them after. As to show people, I like to show people with an art doll how to work with paper as a sculptural medium, and then I finish it after when I get home. So I usually have a lot of these. I don't have any. They sell really fast because they're small and people like them, but I usually create a lot of these. Next slide. Okay, we're nearing the end. This is how the pandemic has impacted me. So again, I create a lot. I have a full-time job, but I on the weekend I tend to create a lot. And what I've noticed since last March, so I have about 100 of these old porcelain dolls that I bought, and I recreate the head and the arms and the legs. I strip the clothes and then just use the form for something. What I can't do now is I can't create one item at a time. Everything has to have a friend. And I'm pretty sure, and for some reason, that's what the pandemic has done for me. I cannot, and it's funny because I talk to my pieces when I create them. And I'm always saying, okay, no, you're not alone. You will not be alone, buddy. I'm going to create you a little friend. And so it's just something that I noticed when I was doing this presentation that has happened since last March. And to this day, I cannot create one single item. It has to have a friend or a buddy or something that goes with it, or someone that goes with it. And again, this is using recycled materials mostly. The heads are all paper clay attached on top of the porcelain head. And then the feet, again, is paper clay on top of the porcelain, usually with a really strong glue. This is something else I'll never forget that Joan taught me, is to utilize glue to strengthen. She hammered home the strengthen aspect of work, and all my work is very good quality because of that. So thank you, Joan. Next slide. Just more, again, I tend to love anthropomorphic figures. It just seems to be my go-to. I don't know why. I love the animal kingdom, and obviously it comes through in my work. As you say, as I was saying, if you honor your creative voice, these themes come up, and for me, anthropomorphic figures are again a big theme. Next slide. More of my beautiful friends. Next slide. Okay, so once in a while, this is gonna sound so weird. If nothing else has sounded weird so far, this is gonna sound weird. I have this thing where I sometimes see something in the store and I feel like it needs to be rescued. So these mice, I rescued them. They were these very primitive wooden figures. It was a band and there were mice, but they were not very pretty and they had horrible colors to them. And I just thought, okay, these need to be saved. So I took them home, and I really liked the concept. So I recreated their heads with paper clay, and turned them into like a beatnik kind of cool jazz band. The only thing that's original is the instruments, but I repainted them. And then I use a lot of recycled fur. I like to use recycled materials, and then created them. And these art dolls for some reason are super popular. They sell within about maybe minutes, if not hours, of me posting them online. It's really crazy. But I sometimes am sad when I sell something and I miss these little characters. It's super fun. Next slide. Okay, this is the last slide. I'm trying to hurry up so you can ask questions. So this was, I did these maybe a couple months ago, a month ago or something. They were my last pieces and they're all gone. What it was I was doing way too many anthropomorphic figures. It was almost too automatic for me and wanted to shake myself up a bit and decided I bought these styrofoam balls and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna take a ball and do something with it, put paper clay on it and do whatever wants to come out. And so these little faces came out that looked like little men and then I gave them these funny little bodies. All their arms and legs are porcelain. They're from, again, I bought a collection of porcelain doll arms and legs. And then this little story came out because I made them all at the same time, 7 of them, of these little neighborhood watchman grandpas. They're retired, so they're at home. They were bored, and so they decided to band together and become the neighborhood watchmen. So they watch over the little kids in the neighborhood and keep everyone safe. And I created little shadow boxes for each individually, and they have behind a drawing of their neighborhood that they sit in. They were super popular, super popular online. And that's it. That's my work. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Anne, can you hear me? It's Joan.
Hey!
I just want to thank you so much for this talk. It's just fabulous. I love seeing these pictures. Thank you so much. You are one crazy person. I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm sitting here in the dark.
It's okay, Joan. No problem. Thank you for showing me that work. Like, I think it's 20 years ago. Thank you so much, Joan. I really appreciate it.
20 years ago. Wow.
I know.
Next time you come to the carving studio, please let me know so I can come. I seem to miss you every time you come because I don't follow up.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
I have a question. First of all, your work is beautiful and hilarious, and it's just uplifting. It really is. But do you write along? Like, do you? I was scrolling through my phone because I kept thinking these remind me of like In the Night Kitchen, you know, Maurice Sendak's stuff. Both in terms of the quality of the either the illustration or in your the sculptures, but also the kind of craziness, the zaniness of the characters.
Yeah. It's funny, I have one of his big books on display in my living room and I look at it every day. I love Maurice Sendak. It's funny that you mentioned him. He's one of my heroes for sure. I don't write. I'm really itching to write. Yeah, and it's one of the things that came out of that workshop in Spain, where he kind of forced me to write, and I was so terrified. And the reason I was terrified was it was ridiculed when I was a kid, and I didn't remember that. It was ridiculed by my mother, actually, and so I stopped it. And he kind of brought it out, and I realized like that's why I was so scared. And the more that I create my little characters and stuff, the more I feel like I need to do some more writing, more storytelling. That's definitely what wants to come out. So it's interesting that you picked that up. Do you write, Mary? Is that something that you do? No? Okay.
Absolutely not. And I think I was my own critic. I don't think I needed anybody else to ridicule it.
Yeah. It's one of the things in my workshop, and one of the things I'm going to explore in my master is that, you know, we really, in order to create, like, you need a really safe environment, because we're pretty hard on ourselves as it is. Even like as creators, we are too. And I find to make it's so inspiring when I'm teaching people and just helping them bring out what wants to come out, and so that they're not afraid, you know, and they're comfortable, and there's no one laughing at them or criticizing them, and I'm helping them turn off their self-editor, and it's it becomes really fun and also scary, because it's vulnerable. Like my first show, I was terrified.
Well, I mean, I think you'll know whether you enjoy it or not. And I don't think the fact that your characters are so, you know, they're telling a story, you are telling a story, doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, written. It can be imagined, you know. I mean, clearly people are intrigued with what you're doing. If you're selling it so quickly, people see the humor, the common, you know, the human condition, whatever it is, or the animal condition. More likely the human condition, as told by your animals.
Yeah.
Creatures.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, Terry.
Hi. I love your work. I grew up in New Orleans, so it's really not that bizarre. I think it's kind of normal. Do you have a favorite kind of glue? You mentioned your epoxy and things like that. And do you connect when you connect your arms and legs and stuff, do you use wire on the inside? Can you share any of those things that you do?
Or if I have something, I don't. Yes, so there's a few questions in there. So one is I use a lot of glues, but I actually like to use artist gel medium. That to me is the highest quality. I use Liquitex. But do you know what I mean by the gel medium? It's in a tub and it's super thick. Yeah. And you can use that with metal. Like that stuff is super strong. And it's, again, I just want to make sure that's really good quality, because I ship my work overseas a lot. And so I want to make sure that it's good quality. So number one, Liquitex gel medium. When I attach it depends. So there's a couple things. Sometimes what I do is I like to do it puppet-like. So I like to have them so that they're moving. And then all I do is I just attach them with a really, really strong jute rope, something natural. And then it's just digging a hole in the shoulder, and then the arm, and then it just attaching. That's one rudimentary way. Another way is with a wire. I don't often do that. And another way is to embed it, so to create a socket. So if I'm going to embed it, I'll create like the anatomy of a shoulder and a socket, and then make the arm fit into
a ball joint.
That part. Yeah. But that's usually what I do if I'm not moving it. And then I like to do it with the pulp paper. Even if it's a porcelain doll arm, I'll embed it in wet pulp paper, but I'll mix the gel medium in the pulp paper. But also pulp paper, sometimes I mix concrete dust in it, so it really like it's super strong.
Thank you.
Do you create art dolls, Carrie, or?
I have in the past, but I do a lot of replicas of different things. We did a series for our Holocaust Commission here, where we recreated suitcases from the 1940s that the here would have carried. So
Oh, wow.
A lot of different things. I love glue.
Wow.
Just wondered what you were working with.
Okay, okay, yeah. Well, if you haven't tried gel medium, it's like it's really strong.
Okay, sounds good.
Mary, what did you say? What did you call them? What were you recreating from the 40s, from the Holocaust?
Suitcases.
Oh,
We're in
suitcases.
Norfolk, Virginia. We have a really active Holocaust Commission. And unfortunately, our last survivor, who was still speaking in schools, passed away last week. So the commission here has recreated their stories and them video produced so that they can still go into the schools. But the presenter will carry the suitcase of the mementos that they had at that time. It's called What We Carry.
Where are you? You're in Virginia, you said? I'm
in Virginia, yeah. Yeah, and one day I'm going to come to Vermont. Hopefully in the summer. It's a little cooler there than it is here.
Yes, you'll have to. You'll definitely have to come to Vermont.
That's right.
Does anybody else have any questions? I know we're running out of time, right, Carol? Or you're on mute, Carol.
Yeah, no, it's just 8 o'clock. I just had one quick question about something I noticed through here. Two things, actually. Your camel, your ink.
Yeah, the drawing.
Yeah, your ink drawing. I just love the fact that you don't pick up the pen and you're challenging yourself. There's no back leg on the camel. There's one back.
I was wondering who was going to notice that.
I was like, why did she do that? But
so
you probably
funny.
learned what you
I just thought it was hidden. I thought it was behind the other one.
I looked everywhere.
So funny. I was trying to go a little bit quicker, but I was going to say sometimes I make major mistakes like forgetting a leg.
But it wasn't noticeable until I started to, really take
look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the, honestly, it's funny because every time I see that drawing, I see that missing leg.
I don't think
that's what I focus on now.
I don't think.
But yeah, I think that's the beauty of just doing it so fast, and not really caring about being so careful. And
well, I have just a little addendum to that. There's an artist named Fred Brownstein who does beautiful figurative work. And for years, I'd seen photographs of this couple of women, I believe. And he showed it in our gallery at one point. And it was only after several visits did I realize the way he had designed and composed the duo, they were sharing one arm. And that was intentional. So I just throw that out as it's not necessarily a mistake.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It was exquisite. It was something that you'd see from another age, and all the features were perfect. But it was not noticeable.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
You had another question, Carol?
I did. The numbers. Do you get lost in that when you find these numbers and you're incorporating them into your pieces, and like the go-karts and 39 days?
It's amazing what you
do. You labor over that, or do you just put it down and let it be?
I'm always amazed by what you notice, Carol, because you zone in on things and it's so incredible. And actually, the numbers. I love the shapes of numbers. I couldn't care less about what it means or that it's a number 12. It doesn't even come into my mind. But except people will always say, "Oh, that's number 12." I'm like, "Oh, right." But for me, it's literally the shape of the number. It just feels right. It's like, oh, okay, so that shape of that 5 works in that space. And I don't know what it is about numbers. It's really not the meaning of the number itself. It's the shape of them. And I find like they just give a little bit of surprise or something. I don't know. Those are old. Those ones are. I think they're old typewriter.
Oh,
You know the old typewriter
yeah.
button. I think that's what those are. I used to have a whole bunch of that stuff.
Mhm.
I used to have big old bingo chips I would use, and people would always ask me the number.
Yeah.
I love what you focus on, Carol.
Well, there was the numbers I wasn't questioning necessarily, but then when one of them it has letters with it, so it says the number 30, and then there was days, and so it was this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it was, but it was right on the front of his shirt and his.
Oh.
Just a little thing that hung out there.
That's so funny. Did you have another question, Carol? Or?
No, I'm good. Anybody else before we wrap it up? Well, thank you so much, Anne. Thank you all for coming. We are going to take a break for the summer in terms of the pandemics, making art during the pandemic series.
Mm-hmm.
But if, when it comes back to the fall, we might resume it. There's so much I love about this. It's just competing with outdoors that makes it a little harder.
Right, of course. I can't wait to come back to the studio.
I know, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Carol. It was really fun. Nice to see you, Serena. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne.
Your work.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.